if we're going to clean up this world, it's going to require some elbow grease, right? It's nothing's going to come easy, but you can try to make it as easy as it possibly can. And so there, the way that you can clean the gutter bin, there's three. There you can clean it by hand. You go up there and you remove the storm grate lid, and you grab the bag, you pull it out. We always weigh it and measure it, and
Oh,
then you dump it into a receptacle, and or you can suck it out with a vacuum truck. Early on in the first couple of years, we had some customers down in Colorado that say, this would be super fantastic if you could suck it out with a vacuum truck. And
gotcha.
so I did. I mean, we changed. We changed the filter configuration and locked the bag into place. So when a suck truck came up to it, you could stick the nozzle down into the Moondus bag and the filter bag and remove it.
Hey there, welcome to the Stormwater World podcast. Shout out to our parent company, Digital Stormwater. We're out there making an impact in stormwater one click at a time. We put more stormwater people in front of your stormwater products and services. How we get there is totally up to you. Some of the services that we offer are social media management, Google, LinkedIn, and Meta ads, SEO and content creation, website builds and updates, AI automations, consulting, and a lot more. So the question is who do you know that needs our help? If you're on YouTube, you can click on that QR code to learn more, or you can give us a call at 844-451-2534, or you can visit us at digitalstormwater.com and schedule a call with us today. I'd like to thank everybody that's been listening to this podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get back to the episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Stormwater World podcast. Excited to have Brian Deurloo with Frog Creek Partners on today. Welcome to the podcast, Brian. How are you, sir?
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm doing well.
All right. Well, we're going to get started as I always do. And I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to an episode or not. If you have not, that's okay. I'm not going to hold that against you. I do make sure I go over everybody's bio. And it's funny. I thought this was weird, right? Just so I just thought that the fact that I do the bio, like kind of like when people do a moderation at the stormwater conferences, somebody gets up there and reads the bio or whatever. I always kind of just followed that format because I've been very late to the podcast game. But then my wife and we started watching and listening to the Sean Ryan podcast. And I don't know if you know who that is or whatever, but it's a pretty cool podcast. But he literally does this every episode. He just stops talking to his guest. He's like, "All right, we got to do your bio. We got to do your introduction." So, anyways, in that fashion, here we go. Brian Deurloo is a Wyoming native is the founder and president of Frog Creek Partners, an innovative company dedicated to stormwater pollution mitigation. After earning his mining engineering degree from the Colorado School of Mines, Brian spent 17 years working in the oil and gas industry before pivoting to environmental entrepreneurship. In 2016, Brian founded Frog Creek Partners, inspired by a dream that led to the development of the gutter bin stormwater filtration system. Since then, Frog Creek has expanded to install gutter bins in 22 U.S. states and 4 Canadian provinces, with plans to enter international markets. Most recently, Brian was honored with an invitation to speak at the United Nations COP16 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where he presented on the intersection of artificial intelligence and water security. His leadership and innovative solutions continue to drive impactful change in communities striving to protect and replenish their waterways. Wow.
Sounds
Welcome,
impressive.
welcome again. Let me just start over. Welcome again, Mr. Deurloo. let
Yeah,
me
thank
just
you.
let me put a Mister in the front of that. That's pretty impressive. So, but I think what's more impressive is all the things that you want to talk about today. But I'm definitely interested in your worldly travels there to Saudi Arabia. That sounds pretty cool. And the artificial intelligence, as pre-call, as we found out, both of our loves and are nerding out a little bit about AI. But like I said, you've got a lot of stuff that you wanted to talk about today. Let me just set the table for everybody. So you make sure you listen till the end, because we are, of course, going to talk about the gutter bin stormwater filtration system. But we're also going to talk, as I already mentioned, about artificial intelligence in stormwater and water security. And then we're going to talk about real world impact stories and lessons learned, which is going to include some of the information from that trip to Saudi Arabia in December of 2024. So I will let you start, Mr. Durlow.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Grate.
Wherever you where
Thank you,
wherever
Mr.
you would
Grate.
like, sir.
Okay,
Where do you want to start? Where do you want to
I don't
start?
know. Let's start with cigarette butts. I like to start at cigarette.
Okay. All right. All right. I only know because I did take a glance at your website. You would have just totally caught me off guard. But let's start with cigarette butts.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, why am I here? It really started honestly with cigarette butts as a trip with my wife out in Boston for an anniversary trip, and I was sitting outside the oldest tavern, so they say in America. I think it was the Bell in Hand, and right up front is cobblestones with a square storm grate. Which at the time I was in oil and gas. Anyway, I worked oil and gas and mining for 20 years, and that's where my headspace was. And I looked down at the ground, and this cobblestones is just littered with cigarette butts, thousands of them around this storm drain. I'm like, I wonder where all those go. And when it rains, obviously they go in a storm drain, but where's that storm drain go? And just with a quick search, I found out most stormwater goes directly to the closest river or ocean. Sometimes that's with an MS4. Sometimes with the CSO, combined sewer overflow, when it's raining a little bit, the water is going to the water treatment plant and stripping out most of the pollutants before it's discharged to the watershed. But 80% of all pollution in the rivers and oceans is coming from stormwater pollution. And there's over 4 trillion cigarettes littered around the world every year. And scientists at San Diego State University have proven that one smoked cigarette butt placed into a liter of water with 10 minnows will kill half the fish in 4 days. So here's the
You need
capability
to
of,
say that. Wait. You need to say that again
okay,
because I have not heard
one
that, and
cigarette
you need
butt,
to say that again for everybody. One cigarette butt. Go
one
ahead.
cigarette butt can kill 5 fish. Dr. Ellie Slaughter proved that you
Wow.
place one cigarette butt in a liter of water with 10 minnows will kill half the fish in 4 days. Plus, it kills phytoplankton, which is a key contributor to converting CO2 into oxygen. And there's 4 trillion these little toxic bombs hitting the ground every year all
Four
around the world.
trillion.
Yeah, and
Four
growing.
trillion.
Hmm.
That's a hard number to get your mind wrapped around. I think we throw around like billion, but 4 trillion.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
it is. And
I don't
so
think people
my
realize.
original invention, which I have a
Okay.
patent on, is magnetizing cigarette filters at the time of production. So when buttheads throw them on the ground, you can pick them up with a magnet. And one of my mentors at Colorado School of Mines said, Brian, it's a great idea, crappy business, figure out a different way to pick up cigarette butts. And on my daughter's 8th birthday in 2016, I shot up out of bed. I literally shot up in bed with an idea for a filter that goes in storm drains that not only captures the cigarette butts I'm trying to stop, but sediment, heavy metals, hydrocarbons. And within a half hour, I was in my garage at 3 a.m. Building a prototype out of cardboard and duct tape. Fast forward, I submitted a few patents to the USPTO and also foreign patents. Won a competition here, business competition, got a grant, and then moved into an office and just kind of grew it. I went through a few funding rounds, and as I always say, storm drains are like snowflakes. No two are the same, it seems. And I go around, and everywhere I
Right.
go, from Anaheim to Amsterdam, I'm looking at storm drains, and they're long, they're short, they're deep, they're shallow, they're round, they're rectangular. So I'm the main inventor. I've got a co-inventor with me as well, named Tommy, and he's the engineer that draws these contraptions that come to my brain. And so I spent the last several years building out the gutter bin stormwater filtration product line so it fits round ones, square ones, channel filters, and tried to make it the most adjustable, functional, and sustainable stormwater filter on the market.
That's cool. When did and this is all out for those that just kind of bypassed when I was reading Brian's bio. This is all out of Wyoming,
Correct.
right?
Hmm.
This is all out of Wyoming. So I'm on the website. I'm not ignoring you for those who are
That's
watching on
fine.
YouTube and don't see me looking at Brian. I'm looking at his website. Um, Mate, let's just jump right into the ugly word, the biggest ugly word that we have in stormwater, right? Maintenance.
Pollution.
You want to talk
Oh,
about,
maintenance.
well, maintenance. We'll get to the big picture. I know you want to talk about big picture, but you jumped in on the product. So I'm like, that's what everybody wants to know, right? What's your thought on maintenance, and how does the maintenance, how do you maintain the gutter bin?
I jumped in on the problem. I jumped in on the problem.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
We
just
jumped in on the
I just
yeah, we landed on the gutter bin, but we just start with cigarette butts.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
exactly.
That's true.
Like any
You're
good
right. You're
salesman
right.
and entrepreneur, always turn it back to the product, right? I'm sorry.
Right, right.
I
Yeah.
want this
Like
to
what the
be
heck?
I want this to be learning too. It's not. I don't want to. This is not a the Brian Deurloo show talking about the gutter bin, because I think it's fun to teach people about stuff. Ty, what did you want to talk about again?
Just the main. I just wanted
Oh,
to
the
talk about
maintenance.
the maintenance on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to clean up this world, it's going to require some elbow grease, right? It's Nothing's going to come easy, but you can try to make it as easy as it possibly can. And so, there, the way that you can clean the gutter bin, there's three. There you can clean it by hand. You go up there and you remove the storm grate lid, and you grab the bag, you pull it out. We always weigh it and measure it, and
Oh,
then you dump it into a receptacle, and or you can suck it out with a vacuum truck. Early on in the first couple of years, we had some customers down in Colorado that say, this would be super fantastic if you could suck it out with a vacuum truck. And
gotcha.
so I did. I mean, we changed. We changed the filter configuration and locked the bag into place. And when a suck truck came up to it, you could stick the nozzle down into the Mundus bag and the filter bag, and remove it. Um, but I saw your eyebrows raise around. You measure the pollution, and that's
Yeah,
data is key. I mean, we were talking about AI there a little bit. Data, data, data.
yeah, yeah.
We built an app early on, about 6 years ago, that we give to our customers, our clients. And so we know pretty much almost where every gutter bin has been installed, who installed it, when was it installed, when was the last cleaned, how many pounds of pollution has been captured, what's the average fullness rate when it's been captured, and pictures before and after cleaning. So, with our app, we can go up there and track this stuff. And if a client calls and says, "Hey, we had this service company clean them last 2 years, and we're paying this much money. What's it? Is this? I
Right.
mean, are they taking advantage of us? What's the average
Yeah.
fullness?" So I know for a fact that Vail, Colorado, we've captured 22,000 pounds of pollution in the last year and a half, from 280 gutter bins being installed there. It's kind of our crown jewel project in
Okay.
Vail. Mhm.
I think that's really like I'm surprised if you've got that much data. There should be like you should have a ticker. You should have a ticker of all that data on your website. Like we've collected so much, this much tonnage. I don't know, whatever the metric would be, right? And it should just be like a live ticker where it's just constantly feeding the data from all the apps onto your website. I think that'd be so freaking cool. Um, but anyways, I digress because that's who I am. Um, what about I mean, do you want to kind of take that like into the next thought as far as like water security and where do you want to go from where do you want to go from there? I don't want to take away from from your cigarette butt intro. I do think it's cool that you kind of woke up in the middle of the night or in the morning and had this idea, and now here we are talking about it 9 years later. But
Well, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I wrote down that note about put a ticker on there. I think that's not a bad idea. Um,
that'd
I
be
do
neat.
want to talk just a skosh more about the problem of stormwater pollution.
Yeah.
It's the world, it's the why. It's what's his name? Simon Sinek says people don't buy
Mhm.
what you do, they buy why you do it.
Oh
Very
man, my
good.
wife loves him.
Yeah, I mean he's a really good thought leader. And so I was watching him and I was like, why do I do it? And honestly, it may sound a little bit corny, but why I do it, it gives a little bit of a voice to the voiceless. The frogs, the turtles, the fish, all these people that were, you think about it, every time it rains, I used to look around and say, oh, it rained, the streets are cleaner, isn't that nice? And but then all this stuff is going to the rivers, and they're breathing all this crap that's flushing down there. Um, and when I look at a storm drain, whether it be Denver or, like I said, Anaheim or anywhere, I look in there and I see obviously the McDonald's cups and the cigarette butts, but I'm seeing a lot more hypodermic needles in storm drains these days. Baby diapers. I've found loaded ammunition and guns. But the
Yep.
thing is, sometimes the things you don't see. It's the cadmium, the iron, the zinc that falls off cars that's washed off of our roofs. Zinc is a known carcinogen, and we got
The
roofs full.
medication, all the quote unquote expired medication people talk about. Oh, what should I do with it? Oh, flush it down the toilet or flush it
Yeah,
down the, or throw it, or it just ends up, I mean, I guess the toilet's wastewater, but like just in
yeah,
general, out in the tree, however it ends up in there, we know that there's prescription medication that's coming out of some
yeah.
of these outfalls
Well, and
in
I've
the,
gone up
in
to
the
a
dust.
gutter bin before and at a construction site, and I clearly know that the guy drained his Traco, the oil from his Traco, into the storm drain the day before and changed his oil above a storm drain. But what I'm leading to here is tire treads as well. Is you think about the billions of tires that are around the nation and the world. Every 4 years, we're buying new tires. Where did all the treads go? They go on the streets, and they're finding that the coho salmon in the northwest area are developing cancer, and so they trace this back to a chemical called 6-ppd, which is introduced into tires to prevent ozone degradation. Um, so we've got all these pollutants that some we can see, some we can't see, that are hitting our rivers and our streams on a daily basis, that are through bioaccumulation. We're eating the shrimp and the trout and the bird and the cows that are all drinking this water or living in it, and then it's coming back into our bodies, and we're getting massive amount of pollution, PFAS and plastic in our bodies. So I don't say this to be an alarmist or I'm a very positive guy, but this is something that needs to really come to the forefront in America and around the world, that we treat it starts right in the sidewalk in front of our building or our house. That's where pollution starts. And with the products that we make and we employ, and the data that we capture, we're trying to help people make wiser decisions, make it easier to clean a stormwater filter, and generally make rivers and oceans, protect and restore them.
So do you feel like, 'cause this always comes up, and I think it's probably comes up because it's what I think about after being, I mean, I've only been in the industry for about 13 years, but I just feel like we just talk to ourselves. Like, how do we turn the conversation inside out? And I don't mean it necessarily negatively. I think there's a lot of people that need to understand what we're doing. They need to know all the products that are out there. They need to know the different geographies and different issues that everybody's fighting in different states and different watersheds. All those things are important, but the average person still has no clue. 13 years in, nobody understands what I do. My wife, none of our friends, they don't get it. So do you guys have any initiatives that you're doing, or because it sounds like you're on that path, or do you have any thoughts on that? Like, how do we turn the conversation inside out? I mean, it's like the only time people care about stormwater is when it's coming in their house, right? They care about flood mitigation,
Yes.
right? They
Yeah.
certainly care when their toilet backs up.
Yeah.
Well, we've got that figured out, right? You flush it, goes away. Okay, great, fantastic. Goes to a treatment plant. Hopefully, all that's working properly. Um, but when it comes to stormwater, they, I,
We
I
don't have
still,
a
well,
Smokey
the majority
Bear.
of people don't realize where it
We
goes.
need we need a Smokey Bear, Smokey the Bear. Remember that? I mean,
Smokey the Bear, like oh, yeah, like, yeah. You know what? That's wait, when you just dated me too. We just dated ourselves. Smokey, I do remember Smokey the Bear
yeah, but
for
even if you've never seen him on TV, kids know who Smokey the Bear is. He
who
was on to a
who he
national
is.
park
That is
resort,
true. That is,
and that
yeah,
one campaign raised. We all know, don't light a fire in the foresting
forest
bed.
fire.
It
Yeah,
causes smoking causes fires, and put out your fire and all that stuff. And so
yeah,
I've always said I'd love to have one of my BHAGs, big hairy audacious goal, is to have a store as
yeah.
a have a Super Bowl ad someday. a 30-second spot out there and just say, look what this does. I mean, just it's around
Yeah.
awareness. You gotta make
Yeah.
people aware, and nobody likes the beating drum of doom and gloom. Like the sky is falling. You hear that
They
too much.
don't. They don't. But everybody's so caught up in their own stuff, right? Like if the poop was if there was literal, if they could see the poop flowing down the street, and it wasn't just it wasn't in the data, it was actually turds, they would care
Yeah,
because
for sure.
nobody would want that,
Yeah, but
right? And
that's
they,
so
you know,
it's always somebody else's problem downstream.
right. And you were saying that, to protect the little guy or the little fish or the little turtle or the frog. Well, I'm going to digress for a second. So is that where did Frog Creek Partners? Is that where the name came up? Is that an homage to like or is there a Frog Creek there near you, or where did where did the name come from?
Oh, long story short, my first like entrepreneurial venture was when I was like 10 years old. I sold frogs to my neighbor for 25 cents a piece for her garden.
So,
But I grew up in a little town outside of Sheridan, Wyoming, and I would catch frogs all the time in Goose Creek. So I knew frogs. I knew frog and water had to be in there, but I also knew something to do with joining. Long story short, I chose frogs because I love frogs. I do, and they
got you.
represent water. I wanted creek in there because I wanted something also representing water. And then partners, what I'm trying to do and what we're trying to do at Frog Creek is such a big thing that it requires partnership. Just like what you're doing right now, Ty, is you're out there tying the strings together on all this stuff, and we to get this big job of helping protect and restore the waters of this world, we've got to form partnerships with like-minded individuals and so forth. So Frog Creek Partners, that's why it all jammed together
Perfect.
like
I love it. There's always a story. There's
that. Yeah,
always a story. So from your garage to your childhood to, each word meaning something to the overall to meaning something to you and then also being pertinent to the mission.
yeah,
I love that. But yeah, to kind of go back what I was saying that you were talking about the frogs, but I think too that it just the problem of stormwater pollution, it just goes back to trying to save us from ourselves. And I think you were kind of saying that because we just don't pay attention enough. And plenty of people like to fish and like to hunt and like to take advantage of. And again, some people are probably going to start to think, I'm a broken record, but it comes up every time. It's like, you take your kids to the beach and, we can't go in the water today. And we made this time out of our busy schedule, but we can't go in the water. Why? Well, it's our own fault. It's our own fault why we can't go in there because we're not being good stewards of if you're that close to get to the water, then the reason why you can't go in the water is because the chemical or whatever for whatever reason. But I think we gotta save us from us, right? Like, and the only way, like you were saying, like we just the awareness, or I don't know, just getting out of the conversations between ourselves and figured out how I can get people to listen to this podcast. That I need to call it something else. I gotta call it something else other than stormwater for people,
well,
for the average public to want to get involved or want to hear what's going on, right? Like, how do we reach them? But
yeah.
um,
And one thing that we
anyway,
do, like, I always bring it back to the product, but it's also the mission as well. But it's what I do on a day in day out basis. It's get her in, get her in, get her in. So
you're
it's kind of like,
fine.
how
You're
do I
fine.
make it better? How do we make them? Who do we hire to do all this stuff? But very early on in the invention process, when the idea came to me, I did it in a vacuum. Like I did a tiny bit of Googling out there. Are there other stormwater filters? And I found out like, oh yeah, there are people out there that do this. But
Mhm.
I didn't study them. I just kind of moved them aside and said, I want to design this in my own way, so forth. But during that process, the idea came through that making a custom storm grate cover. So you'll see on our website, but we make custom storm grate covers. We're not only doing the filter underneath an existing cast iron storm grate, but when the Yellowstone Garage restaurant comes to us, or Meyer Superstores, or Microsoft, or anybody like that comes, Vail, Colorado, they come to us and say, we want a special storm grate at the corner of Fifth and Main. We go out there and we say, give us your logo, give us your colors, and we'll put their logo and colors on a storm grate. which also has an access grate in the middle of it. So you not only have what we call the lifting frame, the outside of it, but also an access grate that is slightly larger in diameter than the filter bag that's below it. So you can prop this thing open; it stays locked open, so you don't pinch any fingers, and you can drop a vacuum suck hose down in there and clean the Mundus bag, or you can pull it out by hand and dump it, and then you put the bag back in and you close it. So it's we have one of these at one of the busiest corners in downtown Colorado Springs, in front of the United States Olympic basketball headquarters. That looks like a gold medal with a basketball on it, basketball
Oh, nice.
player. It's really cool, if I do say so myself. But people look at it and say, "What? Why would anybody do that? What is that all about?" But it's something that brings the filter isn't hidden below an old piece of rusted iron. It's up there at the top. It looks pretty. It melds in really well with all these efforts that people are painting the storm, around the storm
Yep.
drain, make them look pretty. So that's, how do we, are we preaching to the choir? It's the Ty and Brian show talking about the detriments of stormwater pollution, but you get it out there, and it's the awareness piece. You got to make people aware. What's the best
Yeah,
people? I mean,
absolutely.
yeah,
Well, hey, I got to ask you about this because you got me. I am on the website, and so I
yeah,
want to ask because like mosquitoes find me. I'm that guy, right? So there's a bunch of us. We're standing outside. I'm slapping the crap out of myself, and people look at me like it's in your head. And then we go inside, and like I'm just bit up. Nobody got bit. I'm like, you're
yeah.
welcome. Like it's not in my head.
That's why
So I
you're
see.
invited. That's why you're invited to parties.
Yeah, I
Bring
totally,
Ty. He'll
totally.
put him in the
Totally.
corner.
Oh, 100%. And the mosquitoes are terrible here in Southeast Texas too, by the way. So it's
Yeah.
just terrible. So it sticks out. And so it jumps off the screen to me when I see like vector control approved Mosquito Vector Control Association of California. What does that mean?
Okay. 2017, the state of California passed the trash amendments, which
Okay.
requires all stormwater networks in California to be full trash capture by the year 2030. So California right now is halfway through this. They're out there trying to get all these different measures in place to prevent trash from anything larger than 5 millimeters or greater from then going to the ocean, which is cigarette butts, right? They're drawing the line at cigarette butts. But fear drives a lot of decisions, especially in government. And one of them is West Nile virus. And
Uh,
West Nile virus comes from mosquitoes. And
gotcha.
mosquitoes like to breed in the sumps of storm drains, because at the bottom of the storm drain, it's not just doesn't
Oh,
flow to a
sweat.
pipe. There's usually a sunken basement in there that allows the
Yeah.
heavy particles to sit. So when
Yep.
mosquitoes go down there and lay their eggs, we're we got approved. All of our products are approved in California as vector control, and vector is basically, um, I don't know the exact definition, but how do you treat the eggs of the larva of the mosquitoes while not having to remove the filter? So we have a California approved. We just put a small sliding window in there that you can drop a larvicide, a larva killing briquette down into the storm drain that kills the mosquitoes larva.
Cool.
So
Well, thanks.
fully approved for trash capture and vector control in state of California.
Gotcha. All right. Well, like I said, I have a very much of a hate hate relationship with mosquitoes, and so when I saw that on your website, I'm like, I got to ask about this. I want to know, like, if it can help me in my life. I don't care if it's a commercial product or not. Like, what is going on here? But that makes sense. I understand what it is now.
Can I put a
Cool.
pin in that just for 1 second? Or
Yeah.
speaking of mosquitoes. Okay,
Yeah. Sure.
so people don't like mosquitoes, but they're necessary. They're necessary evils because
No.
they feed the fish, they feed the birds and the bats and all this stuff, and so forth. But we have one of our a couple years ago, the city of Vail called me and said, "Hey, we want to start capturing pollution, and we're testing several different products. We want to put gutter bin in the lineup." So they put a few different stormwater filter types out there around their public works building. After about 6 months or so, they found that the gutter bin was the only one that actually hadn't broken yet. And I'm not trying to disparage anybody else, but that was the case. Like yours actually stayed together. It's easy to clean. Blah blah blah. So now we want to buy more. So we put 280 gutter bins in
Why?
Vail.
Why was that? Can you
Why?
speak on that? Yeah, I mean, without giving away the secret sauce, why do you
Um,
think that was? Is
Ours
it
is
just
100% stainless steel. Other
okay?
people use a lot of fiberglass or plastic. There's,
Uh-huh.
I mean, and so I made a choice early on. Let's do high quality products made in America that aren't going to
Nice.
fall apart. And so it stuck together, and then they expanded the project. But the point of it, the point of the whole conversation here is, in 18 months and 278 gutter bins, we captured over 22,000 pounds of pollution and diverted that to the landfill. But for the first time in 15 years, macroinvertebrate populations, aka insect populations, in Gore Creek have actually increased, and that's been one of their main goals. They're the top of the watershed. They're top of the Colorado River watershed, Vail, Colorado. There's no
Right.
other town above it, so nobody else is polluting Gore Creek except for the citizens and so forth and the tourists of Vail. But now, because we have, it's not only our stormwater filter. They're taking other measures, but that's huge, Ty. I mean, if we can make these data, we drive our decisions through data, and we're actually seeing the river getting cleaner, by with insect populations increasing. That should be a siren song or a signal to all these other communities downstream. Let's ramp up our efforts to help clean
Yeah.
up these rivers.
Yeah. 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 Because yeah, we said yeah, say it all the time. That stormwater doesn't really care about our boundaries. It doesn't. Stormwater doesn't care about what the MS4 boundary is. It just
No,
goes where it wants to go.
this is
Right.
correct.
So, I mean, so let's work together, upstream and downstream. It's like, oh, it's coming from that. It's not ours.
Yeah,
That's somebody else's problem. Well, let's
there's
talk
some.
about
Go ahead.
where you want to go? You want to talk about Saudi Arabia, or you want to talk about your presentation? You want to talk about water security?
Oh, we could kind of wrap it up all into one if you want. It's kind of a funny story how it
Okay.
happened.
All right.
Where I saw this email come in a couple times, like, "Hey, we'd like to invite you to Sustainability Week in Riyadh," and it smelled funny to me, so I deleted it.
Yeah, yeah, I would have been like, "That's a scam."
Oh
I
man,
would have deleted that
yeah,
immediately.
I've been scammed before, and I'm fool me once, right? Shame on me.
Right, right.
Fool me. So
We would
anyway,
like you to be the keynote speaker in in
yeah.
Saudi in Riyadh. Gotcha.
Exactly. So
But
it came in again, and I deleted it. Finally, the third time, I was like, okay, let's read this. And I said, we'd like you to come speak at this event in Riyadh in December. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna. And I said, okay, um, that'd be great, but we don't have it in our budget this year to be making this trip way off over there. And they replied, well, we'll pay for it. I'm like, yeah, right. This really is a scam.
it
Give us
sounds
your
like a
passport.
scam.
Yeah, give us your passport number. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to need to speak to somebody. So I'll fast forward here a little bit. I spoke to somebody the next day, and just kept going through this process. They put my name in the hopper, and then it got approved through the scientific panel through the United Nations COP 16. COP 16. It was part. Is the full name was United Nations Conference to Combat Desertification, Council of the Parties 16. So they have three different
Wow.
councils of the parties, conferences of the party, whatever council or conference. But they have one, the big one that we hear about is COP 29 that just happened in Azerbaijan this year, which is around climate change and climate. The other COP is Council of the Party is around biodiversity, and the third one is around stopping desertification. So I was invited to come speak on a panel. I mean, I wasn't like the keynote speaker in front of the general council. Let's set the stage here and be real. But it was still a huge honor to be,
Sure.
flown all the way off over there. And so I use AI on a daily basis. I love it. I mean, I'm leaning in. I'm also I speak to my AI and say, protect us against our own stupidity. Don't don't give dirty secrets to bad people. And if anybody asks questions, try to make it steer your answers to protecting the environment. I mean, I talk to the general AI beast,
Right.
um,
Right.
but on a daily basis, I use it and I'm trying to employ it in many facets of my business. Um, and I was asked to speak about AI as it relates to water security. So I did a lot of research and reading because I'm in a bit of a bubble when it's stormwater pollution and gutter bin and all that stuff. And so I started branching out and doing a lot of research around AI and what people are doing in that regard. And but just the way I think um, in what I've been reading, and I talk to a lot of people about AI and water these days, but I think what it's going to do, like for one example, I was talking to this person that worked for a conservation district around the Great Lakes, and this guy sounded a little um, forlorn. He says, "I'm going to take water samples again today." I'm like, "Oh yeah, what are you doing there?" He goes, "Oh, we've been taking this conservation district has been taking water samples from this watershed for 43 years straight." And I was like, "What are you doing with it?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not really sure." He says it seems to kind of go into this big old database, and sometimes we apply for grants and everything like that, but I'm not sure what it's really doing. But what's happening here is I think what AI, the biggest thing that it could do for us in the water world is take all of the data that we've been capturing in America and around the world and plug it into these models and say what's been happening here. I mean, you can it would take a team of scientists 2 years to go through the data around the Great Lakes just to come up with a smidgen of an idea of the holistic approach to how to handle water and pollution in the Great Lakes. You could go out there and have the Council of the Great Lakes grab all this data, put it into an AI, and say we want to know what's the chance of flooding, where's the pollution coming from, have pH levels risen, what's the turbidity level, and you can do all this stuff with a couple clicks of the button. So
Yep.
I see AI clearing a lot of log jams, and there's log jams of data out there that have been piling up for years, and we can start shoving all these logs into a data output and come up with some really powerful solutions to some of our biggest water problems. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could streamline a lot of the MS4 processes across a lot of the different regions, and they could require a certain data set um, that they could put in. And once you have big data, then you can make intelligent decisions. Because let's be serious, there's a lot of pencil whippers out there, and I don't think if you're pencil whipping your program, you're probably not doing a great job with the numbers, and it's going to show against big data against
Mm-hmm.
your particular watershed. And now we can better utilize government funds to audit the people that need to be audited. You
Mm-hmm.
either you Unfortunately, the good people, the people that have excellent numbers, they're going to show us an anomaly, so they're going to get audited and they're going to come through with flying colors. And the people that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're going to show us an anomaly against big data. And instead of, I think there's a lot of randomness and there's a lot of not in the enforcement world. It's just not being enforced because it's not enough people, it's not enough time, it's too much, it's just too much. But man, if you can just streamline the process and put in, everybody has to put in the same amount of data points, and then you can look at the data, and like what you're saying, you could ask AI to look at it 6 ways a Sunday in a matter of minutes. And you could say, here, let's go check out these people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Just like you were
Well,
saying, what you were saying, just like you were saying with the numbers that came out of Vail, you guys, they look like rock stars, right?
mhm.
And then you go, oh, well, yeah, and to corroborate that data, we have other data over here that shows the increase in the microvertebrate in the area. So it's all legit. We're doing good here. So
Yeah.
use us as an example and and carry this good word downstream.
Yeah. And around AI as well is the concept of digital twins. Um, where this is huge for water management, where you take, um, I don't know, any city, America, Denver, Colorado, for example, um, and they've been out there gathering GIS information for years. So they have all these nodes, but basically, long story short, you can take all the stormwater and you put it into your digital twin. And so not only do you have the pipes out there in the ground, all 22,000 storm drains in Denver, that doesn't include the suburbs or all around there. Um, and you pop it in there, you can start seeing with AI through the digital twin, which twins what the infrastructure looks like, where the water is going to flow. If these pipes fill up halfway, it's kind of like a very sophisticated hydraulic model. But then also you introduce this: how much rain are we getting? What if we get a really hot May and in the Rockies around Colorado? What's that going to do to the flooding effect and so forth? So they can start draining Cherry Creek Reservoir to allow more flood event. Overall, it's going to add a lot more balance to the whole water system. I think very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, like a smart system,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
around the Riyadh thing, to kind of close the loop on that, it flew out there and it was all around desertification. How do we prevent desertification? And I just felt so honored and privileged to be a part of it. They had a car to pick me up at the airport, dropped me off at a 5-star hotel, had a car to take me to the event the next day, dropped me off at the VIP tent. And then that afternoon, I was up there on a panel discussion with some really impressive guys from Oxford and Sri Lanka and France, talking about AI and water. We're just in the nascency. Anybody that says they're an expert with AI and water, go find somebody else to talk to, because I'm not. I wouldn't pretend that I am. I'm just learning how it goes as well. Um, but then I just went around all these different tents. It's kind of like going to the Olympics. Have you ever been to an Olympic
I have
event?
not.
it's
No.
it's
Mm-mm.
kind of one of those things you should just, if it's in your country or you have an inkling to go
Right.
wherever the next one is, it's just kind of one of those things a person should. I don't like to use the word should, but it's an opportunity people can take advantage of. If you can go to a UN event somewhere, or an Olympic event, we people need to see the broader view of the America, or the world, and those are
Yeah.
the venues to see it. And so I just went from
Oh,
tent to
yeah.
tent, talked to the Ministry of Environment, and they're building some really smart cities in Saudi Arabia. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is throwing a bunch of money at water initiatives. There's huge desalination plants there, building, like I said, smart cities. And I learned a lot about,
Is it Saudi Arabia that's building the line? Is that Saudi
yeah,
Arabia that's building the line?
yeah, I think it's called NEOM, NEOM,
Yeah. Yep.
up north. And yeah, they've got that FIFA World Cup coming there. They got the 2029 Asian Olympics and the 2030 World Expo. A lot of things are happening in Saudi right now.
What a crazy opportunity. Now you're gonna make me go dig through my my junk folder. See if I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. No, nobody's asking me to come speak in a different country. So that is awesome. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Well, what's next for you and for Frog Creek Partners, or how would you like to end the episode? What point would you like to drive home to our listeners as far as, stormwater pollution or just the cause and, the mission in general?
Well, I'm gonna remove the barrier of shameless self promotion here for a second.
Do
I
it.
haven't been
Do
doing
it.
that, but um, I if by fortuitously we get the email in, like with the UN and stuff like that, if somebody's listening to this, we have a we have a business plan that, if okay, just cut to the chase. One of my big, hairy, audacious goals is to partner up with a huge corporation or a high net worth individual or somebody like that wants to make a big impact on a watershed, like the Columbia River watershed, the Mississippi, the Colorado, whatever. We have a plan to help divert millions, if not billions, of pounds of pollution from a watershed into landfills and help protect that. And that's where I'm getting, Ty. Like, we're out there. I've been working with selling 5 gutter bins there to this place, 10 gutter bins there, 80 to that place. I want what we would like here at Frog Creek is to partner up with somebody really big that wants to do a massive good for our environment. By the way, I think we should stop calling it the environment and call it our environment, because that way we're separating. If we understand it's our environment,
Hours. Yeah.
um,
Right.
but honestly, that around that partners part of Frog Creek Partners, every year we keep getting these bigger and bigger projects with these people with these entities. And so that's where I want to go. Is we say, where does Frog Creek want to go in the next few years? I want to be in a single project putting in 10,000 gutter bins as part of it, or maybe even 100,000 gutter bins, diverting, because the average gutter bin is topping 150 to 250 pounds of pollution every year per storm drain, and those things add up. Um, yeah, so that's kind of where I want to go.
Awesome. Well, hey, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come visit with us and share your thoughts and ideas with our listeners. Um, I really appreciate it. It's nice to get to. I'm pretty sure we've seen each other at some point or other at at a conference, but this is obviously the most we've got a chance to visit. So it was nice getting to meet you, even if it's in a virtual setting. So Brian, I thank you again for being on the podcast.
Ty, it's my pleasure. Thank you for reaching out. What you're doing is so important. You said maybe you're Smokey the Bear. You're the one starting all this stuff, kind of bringing these stormwater people together.
I'm
Um,
starting to feel like I look like Smokey the Bear. I'm not, we've been trying to work, we've been trying to work out, but it is what it is, maybe like a little Kung Fu Panda, but, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
See you.